Hi everyone, this is Stella and welcome to Stella Music Theory. Today we are going to go over some exercises from Chapter 2 in the Grade 1 Discovering Music Theory Workbook. Let's get started. Today we are going to start with writing the same notes in Another Clef, which is on page 3 of your workbook. In exercises 4, 5, and 6 below, you need to recognize and write notes of the same pitch using different clefs. Let's take a look at the box here. These staffs show notes of the same pitches written in different clefs. We see that there are two staffs here. The upper one is the treble clef staff. The lower one is the bass clef staff. We can look at them separately, or sometimes in music like piano music, you will see that they can be joined together like this. So I'm going to join them up. So we are going to look at them together. They are joined together. There will be a bracket like this. And we call this a grand staff. Grand means big. So this is just a bigger staff. Now if the higher staff with the treble clef shows higher pitches, then the lower staff with the bass clef show notes that are the low register or with lower pitches. So here there is a gap between the upper staff and the lower staff. So if we're going to put a line here, this will be a ledger line. The note that sits on this ledger line, it will be middle C. You will not see that ledger line sitting right in the middle of that gap, because if it does, it's hard to identify whether it belongs to the treble clef or the bass clef. So what happened is, from this here, it will move up closer to the treble clef if it's a note in the treble clef area, and it will be moved down like this, so it's closer to the bass clef area. But they are actually the same note, so both of them are middle C. Here we can start with middle C. I'm going to put a star here. That's our reference point. And to first erase these. Now starting from middle C, if we focus on the treble clef staff for now, if you remember, we learned in grade 1 that the higher the note sits on the staff, the higher the pitch. So if we're going up this way, then the note is going up. This note here, which is above middle C, and it touches the bottom line, that will be D. And that's the D above middle C. This note here, which is on the bottom line, treble clef, that will be E. And this note here, in the first space, in treble clef, that will be F. So these are the D, E, and F above middle C. Now if we want to show these three pitches in the bass clef, they will have to be on the ledger lines, because middle C in the bass clef is already on the ledger line. So any notes that are above middle C would have to be on the ledger lines as well. So if the note on the line is middle C, then the note above the line would be the D, and that would be the D above middle C. So if you compare these two notes, you will notice that they are the same. Both of them are the D above middle C. This note here, the next one, there are two ledger lines and it sits on the top ledger line. That would be the E above middle C. And again, if we compare these two notes, they are the same. They are both E above middle C. The next note here, again there are two ledger lines. This time the note sits above the top line. That would be F above middle C. So these two are both F above middle C. Now we get to go down from middle C, starting with this note here, which is the middle C that sits on a ledger line below the staff in treble clef. Any notes that are below middle C in the treble clef will be on the ledger lines because middle C is already on a ledger line. So this note that sits below the ledger line would be B below middle C. This note that sits on the lower line, so there are two ledger lines here. The note that sits on the lower line would be A below middle C, and this note here that sits below the lower line would be G below middle C. Now again, you will notice that these two notes, they are the same. Both of them are B below middle C. If you want to show that same B, the B below middle C, using the bass clef, we don't need to use any ledger lines because that note already touches the top line of the staff. So these two notes, they are the same. Same idea, this A here and this A, they are the same A, which is the A below middle C. And this G here and this G, they're the same G. Let's take a look at exercise 4 together. Smart tip. Write the letter name of each note underneath it to check. Here, did you know, notes that share the same note name aren't always the same pitch. They can be one or more octaves apart. Sing or play the note C at two different octaves and listen to how they differ. Exercise 4. Tick or cross each box to show whether or not the notes are at the same pitch in each clef. So if they are the same pitch, we will put a tick. If not, it will be a cross. Let's take a look at question A together. Here we have a treble clef. This note that is on the ledger line below the staff will be middle C. And in bass clef, this note that is on a ledger line above the staff will be middle C as well. So they are both middle C, and so they have the same pitch. Question B, bass clef. Here this note that is on the top line would be A, and this is where middle C is. So this A is the A below middle C. Then for the treble clef note, we have this note that is on the ledger lines. I'm going to start with this, which is C, B, A, G. Now this is actually a G note. One is A, the other is G. They are not the same pitch. Question C, treble clef note is this one here in the first space, which is F. Now we always use the middle C as our reference. So this is where middle C is. So the F is above middle C. Then for the bass clef note, we have this note which is on the fourth line. That will be F in bass clef. Now this is where middle C is. So this F is actually the F below middle C. So one is the F above, one is the F below, and they are not the same pitch. Question D, the bass clef note is a B. Now this is middle C, so this is just a B below middle C. And for the treble clef note, this is where middle C is. And so this note is also the B below middle C. So they are the same pitch. Question E, the treble clef note is on the ledger lines. So we're going to start with this, which is C. And this will be B, and this is A. So this is the A below middle C. For the bass clef note, this note here would be A as well. And this is where middle C is. So both of them are the A below middle C. So they are the same pitch. Question F, bass clef note is this one here. So we're going to start with this, which is the middle C. This will be D. This is E. And this note would be F. F above middle C. For the treble clef note, we have this note here, which is in the first space, and that's F as well. The middle C is here in the treble clef. So they are both the F above middle C. Question G, treble clef note is this note here, which is D. And this is where middle C is. So this is the D above middle C. For the bass clef note, we have this note. So we're going to start with this, which is middle C, D, and this will be E. So one is D, one is E. They are not the same pitch. Question H. For the bass clef note, it's the note here, which is in the fourth space. That's G. Middle C is here on the ledger line. So this is the G below middle C. For the treble clef note, we have this note here. We're going to start with middle C, which is here. And this is B below middle C. One is G, the other is B, so they are not the same pitch. Let's turn to the next page. Exercise 5. Rewrite these notes in the bass clef, keeping the pitch the same. So we want to keep the pitch the same here. Smart tip. You will need to use ledger lines for some of these notes. Question A. For the treble clef note, we have this note here, which is D. This is middle C. So that's the D above middle C. Now, if we want to rewrite the D above middle C in the bass clef, think of where middle C is. Middle C would be here in the bass clef. So if you put the note above that ledger line, it would be D. Question B, we have this note here in the treble clef. Again, we're going to start with this, which is middle C. So C, B, this will be A below middle C. So let's rewrite it in the bass clef. Let's find middle C first. Middle C would be on the ledger line here. So if we go down a skip, C, B, A, it will be this A here. Question C. For the treble clef note, we have this note here, which is on the bottom line, and that will be E. Now this is middle C, so the given note is the E above middle C. When we rewrite it in the bass clef again, we're going to find middle C, which is here. And if we go up a skip, C, D, E, so 1, 2 ledger lines, and this note will be here. Question D. Treble clef, we have this note. So this is middle C, and this would be the B below middle C. When we rewrite it in the bass clef, we start with middle C, which is here. So just need to go down one step, and that will be the B below middle C. Question E. Treble clef, notice this, which is in the first space, that will be F. Now this is where middle C is. So this F is above middle C. When we rewrite it in the bass clef again, we're going to start with middle C, which is here. You can either go up by skip. So this would be E, and therefore this would be F. So we are going to put in 2 leisure lines, and this note would be F above middle C. Next, exercise 6. We write these notes in the treble clef, keeping the pitch the same. So this is very similar to exercise 5, except that they give us the note in the bass clef and we have to rewrite them in the treble clef. Question A, we're given this note in the bass clef. This is B. This is middle C, so this B is the B below middle C. So when you rewrite it in the treble clef, first you have to locate where middle C is, which is here. So if we put the note below the leisure line, that would be the B below middle C. Question B, for bass clef, we are given this note. Now we need to start with this, which is middle C. So the given note would then be D above middle C. When we rewrite it in the treble clef, we start with middle C, which is here, and the D above it would just be here. Question C, bass clef, we're given this note, which is a G. Now this is middle C, so this G will be the G below middle C. And when we write it in the treble clef, I'm going to start with the middle C. Then we're going to go down. You can go down by step like this: C, B, A, and this will be G. So we need to put in 2 leisure lines, and this will be G. Question D, bass clef, notice this. Let's start with middle C, which is here. This will be D. So this is the E above middle C. When we rewrite it in the treble clef, this is middle C. So the E above it would be right here. Question E, bass clef, notice this, which is A, and this is middle C. So this is the A below middle C. When we rewrite it in the treble clef, this is middle C. The A below it would be like this. Question F, we're given this note here, which is on the leisure line above the staff. We know that's middle C. So we just need to rewrite the middle C in the treble clef, which is here. Next, we're going to look at challenge together. Can you rewrite these melodies in the new clefs, keeping the pitches the same? Rewrite the rhythms exactly as in the originals, and make sure you include any accidentals. So when we rewrite the melody, we have to keep the same rhythm, and we have to include all the accidentals as well. So let's take a look at question A together. Here we are given a melody in triple clef. So we're going to rewrite it in the bass clef, keeping the same pitches. The first note is this note here. We're going to use middle C as our reference point, which is here. So this is just the D above middle C. When we rewrite the melody in bass clef, again, we're going to find where middle C is, which is right here. So the D would be this D. And the next note in the melody is E. I'm just going to write down what the notes are. We have F sharp, E, C sharp, and A. So when we rewrite it, we're going to start with D. Then the next note is E, which is a note higher, so 2 ledger lines like this. Because we need to keep the rhythm the same, we're going to join them together as quavers. Then the next note would be F, which is even higher. So this note here, it will be F. Make sure you put it in an F sharp. Then we go back to E, which is this note here. C sharp. I'm going to leave some space because it needs to fit the sharp there. Here's a C sharp. Join them up together, the quavers. And the last note is A, below middle C, so it will be this A here. Now next, they ask if you can name the key of each melody. So in melody A, there are 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. The key with 2 sharps would be D major. Next, let's take a look at B together. Now we're given a melody in bass clef and we need to rewrite it in treble clef this time. So we're going to find middle C first, which is here. So the starting note would be E above middle C. So we have E, E, falling down to D, C, that will be G, A, back to middle C. So when we rewrite it, we need to locate middle C, which is here. The first note is the E above middle C. So it will be this note here. The next note is also E and then D. Now when we add the stem, because all these notes are below the 3rd line of the staff, so the stem needs to go up. When the stem goes up, it's on the right side, so like this. And we're going to join them up together, following the same rhythm. Then we have 2 quavers, which are C and G. So this will be middle C, that's C. And the G is the G below middle C. If you count C, B, A, G, this will be the G. So the note under the 2nd ledger line, I'm going to erase this and add the G here. So this will be C going to G. Then we have A, which is right above G, so it's this note here, so crotch it. The last note is middle C. Now again, can you name the key of this melody? There are no sharps or flats, so it will be C major. Let's turn to the next page. Exercise 7. Circle true or false for each statement. Statement A. All pitches written in the bass clef are lower than the pitches written in the treble clef. Is it true or false? Now if you think about it, we can write middle C with the treble clef. We can also write middle C with the bass clef. They are already the same note. So not all pitches written in the bass clef are lower than those in the treble clef. Therefore, this statement is false. B. In the treble and bass clefs, middle C is written using 1 ledger line. This is true because middle C is written on 1 ledger line below the staff in the treble clef and is written on 1 ledger line above the staff in the bass clef. So true. C. In the bass clef, ledger lines are only used above the staff. So this is a false statement because ledger lines can be added above or below the staff. D. The note middle C in the bass clef is in the same position as the note A in the treble clef. So I'm going to draw a staff with 5 lines. They're asking about middle C in the bass clef. So I'm going to put in a bass clef here. The middle C would be this note here on the ledger line above the staff. And so they're asking if the note A in the treble clef is in the same position as middle C in the bass clef. So I'm going to draw another staff here. And I'm going to put in a treble clef this time. Now same position mean this line here, this note that is on this ledger line would be A in treble clef. So this in bass clef is C, and this in bass clef is A. So this is a true statement. Next, let's look at exercise 8. For each pair of notes, work out whether the second note is higher, lower, or the same as the first note. Circle your answer. Remember, sharp raise the pitch by a semitone, and flat lower the pitch by a semitone. Let's take a look at A. We have this note here in treble clef, which is E. This is middle C, so this is the E above middle C. Then for the bass clef note, we have this note here. This is middle C in bass clef, so D and E flat. So this would be E flat. And they are the same E. Both of them are the E above middle C. If we compare the second note, the first note, second note has a flat in it, so it's lower than the first note. Question B. For treble clef, we have this note. This is middle C, so this will be B, and this is A below middle C. For bass clef, we have this note here. This is A flat. This is where middle C is. So this A flat is the A flat below middle C. Both of these A are the A below middle C, and the second one has a flat, so it is lower than the first note. Question C. For bass clef, we have this note, which is B. Now this is middle C, so this B is the B below middle C. And for treble clef, we have this note here, starting with this middle C, this is B, and this will be A. So this is A sharp. So this A sharp is the A sharp below middle C. So both these two notes are below middle C. If we compare A sharp with B, A sharp is lower than B. Question D. For treble clef, we have this note, which is middle C. And for bass clef, we have this note, which is also middle C, but it has a sharp, so this is C sharp. C sharp will be higher than C. Question E. For bass clef, we have this note. So starting with middle C here, this is D. So this is the E above middle C. For treble clef, we have this E here. This is where middle C is. So this is also the E above middle C. And they are the same. Question F. For treble clef, we have this note, which is F sharp. This is middle C. So this is F sharp above middle C. For bass clef, we have this note. So we can start with this here, which is middle C. So this will then be D. sharp. This is the D sharp above middle C. D sharp will be lower than F sharp. Your progress. Congratulations! You've completed all the work for grade 2 on pitch. You can turn to the practice exam paper on page 49 if you'd like to try some sample exam questions. This is the end of today's tutorial. If you like my video, do subscribe to my channel so you will not miss any upcoming videos. See you next time!